In the summer of 2018, inside a quiet pharmaceutical plant in eastern China, a routine quality test turned up something that wasn't supposed to be there, a chemical called NDMA, the same chemical the World Health Organization classifies as a probable human carcinogen, the same chemical found in cigarette smoke, in contaminated groundwater, in industrial pollution, and it was sitting inside one of the most widely prescribed blood pressure medications on the planet, a pill that millions of Americans were swallowing every single morning, often for years on end, trusting that what was inside that bottle was safe. By the time the FDA was done issuing recalls, more than 1,000 lots of blood pressure medication had been pulled off pharmacy shelves across the United States. Lawsuits followed, investigations followed, and quietly, behind the scenes, a much bigger question started to take shape. If the regulated FDA-approved side of the industry could fail this badly, what was happening on the unregulated side? That's what I spent the last several weeks investigating, and what I found honestly disturbed me more than the recall did. Because while the pharmaceutical industry was paying lawyers and printing apologies, an entire shadow market was quietly stepping in. A market of bottles you've probably scrolled past on Facebook. Bottles sold by men in white coats who may not actually be doctors. Bottles promising to replace your blood pressure medication naturally. Bottles being shipped directly to the homes of retirees, of parents, of grandparents, people who trusted the label because the label sounded like medicine. In this video, I'm going to name 7 specific blood pressure supplement brands that came up over and over again in consumer complaints, FTC actions, and independent lab testing. Brands you've almost certainly seen advertised. And at the end, I'm going to share 3 things that actually have real science behind them. 3 things your cardiologist would likely nod at, that don't require handing your credit card to a 90-second YouTube ad. So before you take another sip of coffee with your morning pills, stay with me. Because what I'm about to show you may completely change how you look at the bottle sitting on your kitchen counter. To understand why this supplement market exists at all, you have to understand the person it's targeting. Picture someone in their early 60s. They've been told by their doctor that their blood pressure is creeping up. Maybe they've been on lisinopril for a few years, or amlodipine, or hydrochlorothiazide. Maybe they've experienced some side effects, a dry cough that won't go away, swollen ankles, dizziness when they stand up too fast. They've read articles online about how blood pressure medication can drain your magnesium or damage your kidneys. They're nervous. Then one night, scrolling through Facebook, an ad appears, a man in a white coat, a serious face, a studio backdrop. He starts talking about a breakthrough discovery, usually something framed around an ancient tribe, or a forgotten Harvard study, or a doctor who lost his license for telling the truth. The pitch is always the same. Big Pharma doesn't want you to see this. There's a natural compound that lowers your blood pressure better than your medication, and for a limited time, you can try it risk-free. That ad, in some version or another, has been viewed billions of times. And here's the part most people don't realize. In the United States, dietary supplements don't require FDA approval before they hit the market. Under a law passed in 1994, manufacturers can put almost anything in a bottle, slap a label on it, and start selling it the next day. The FDA can only act after a product is already on shelves, and only if there's clear evidence of harm. Marketing claims are policed loosely, if at all. Lab testing is voluntary. The doctor in the ad doesn't have to be a doctor. The clinical study doesn't have to exist. This is the environment the 7 brands I'm about to walk you through have operated in for years. Let's start with the most aggressive one. Brand 1. Blood Pressure 911. The name alone tells you everything about the marketing strategy. Blood Pressure 911. As if you're about to dial an emergency line. As if a bottle of capsules is going to rush to your house and save your life. Blood Pressure 911 is sold by a Florida-based company called FitAge Labs. If you've spent any time on health-related sites, you've almost certainly seen their banner ads. The product is marketed as a natural alternative for people concerned about their blood pressure, a blend of hawthorn berry, juniper, garlic, and a handful of common vitamins. Now, hawthorn and garlic have been studied. They appear in legitimate cardiology literature. Both can have modest effects on cardiovascular markers in certain doses, but here's where the story gets uncomfortable. The doses inside Blood Pressure 911, according to consumer testing reports, are dramatically lower than what the actual clinical studies used, lower in some cases by a factor of 10. Which means the studies the company quotes on its sales page, those studies were done with amounts of these ingredients, that bear almost no relationship to what's inside the actual capsule a customer ends up swallowing. Then there's the Better Business Bureau file. If you look up PhyTage Labs in the BBB database, you'll find a long history of consumer complaints. The pattern is remarkably consistent. Customers describe being offered a free trial or a single bottle, then discovering recurring charges on their credit cards weeks later. Charges they say they never authorized. Refunds that took months to process, if they came at all. Phone numbers that led to long hold queues. Cancellation requests that allegedly went unanswered. I want to be careful here. These are complaints. They are not court findings. PhyTage Labs disputes many of them. But the pattern across hundreds of similar reports paints a picture you'd want to know about before clicking that Order Now button. This is the playbook, and it's about to look very familiar across the next 6 brands. Brand 2, Basopril. Basopril is marketed harder than almost any supplement in this category. If you've spent 5 minutes on YouTube watching anything related to health, you've probably had a Basopril ad served to you. The pitch is theatrical. Long-form video sales letters that run 30, 40, sometimes 60 minutes. A narrator with a calm voice tells you about a lost Amish remedy or an ancient blood pressure secret hidden in a specific compound found in plants the pharmaceutical industry supposedly doesn't want you to know about. The product itself is a blend of berberine, hawthorn, garlic, and a few other extracts. Berberine, by the way, is a legitimate compound. It's been studied for blood sugar regulation, and there's emerging research on cardiovascular markers. But, and this is the pattern again, the doses in real clinical studies are far higher than what's typically inside a single Basopril capsule. What raised the bigger red flag for me, though, wasn't the formulation, it was the marketing. Multiple investigations into Basopril's advertising have found endorsements attributed to doctors and television personalities who, according to their own public statements, never endorsed the product at all. Images and clips appear to have been used without permission. In some versions of the ad, the spokesperson on screen appears to be artificially generated, a face that doesn't seem to exist in any verifiable public record. The Federal Trade Commission has in recent years cracked down on supplement companies using fabricated celebrity endorsements and AI-generated testimonials. Whether Basopril specifically becomes part of that enforcement wave remains to be seen. But consumer protection forums are full of buyers who say they felt deceived, who believed they were watching a real doctor describe real science, and only later realized what they had actually been sold. That's the thing about this market. The product itself may be relatively harmless. The deception around the product is where the harm actually lives. Brand 3, Striction BP. Striction BP is sold by a company called Optimal Health and Wellness. Out of all 7 brands in this video, this is the one that may have come the closest to mainstream credibility, and that's exactly what makes it worth talking about. The ingredient list looks better on paper than most of its competitors. Chrominex chromium, Ceylon cinnamon extract, magnesium. These are real compounds with real research, particularly around blood sugar regulation. The company has, at various points, claimed an association with Dr. Oz and his television show, claims that, by all accounts I could verify, were never officially confirmed by Dr. Oz himself. That, as seen on Framing Matters, it's a marketing tactic used across this entire category. Mention a famous doctor's name, mention a famous program. Plant the seed in the customer's head that this product has medical legitimacy. Then, if challenged, retreat to vague language. We never said he endorsed us, we just said the ingredients were discussed. The bigger issue with Striction BP, and again, I'm going off documented consumer reports here, is the subscription model. Multiple buyers have described being unable to easily cancel recurring shipments. Some say their orders kept arriving long after they thought they'd stopped them. Some describe credit card disputes that dragged on for weeks. The product itself, it might do something. The ingredients aren't fake, but the experience of buying it, according to the people who've actually bought it, often turns into a customer service nightmare. And there's a deeper question worth asking. If a supplement was as effective as the sales page claims, if it really lowered blood pressure as dramatically as the testimonials suggest, wouldn't it be in every drugstore in America? Wouldn't your doctor have heard of it? Wouldn't there be peer-reviewed clinical trials published in major journals? These questions answer themselves. Brand 4, BP Zone. BP Zone is sold under the Zenith Labs banner, fronted by a man named Dr. Ryan Shelton. Now, unlike some of the other entries in this video, Dr. Shelton is a real licensed medical professional. That's important to acknowledge, but the existence of a real doctor on the label doesn't automatically validate everything inside the bottle. BP Zone's formula leans heavily on saffron, hibiscus, and arjuna, an herb used in traditional Indian medicine. Each of these has at least some research behind it. Hibiscus in particular has been studied for mild blood pressure effects, and we'll come back to that toward the end of this video. The problem with BP Zone isn't the ingredients, it's the positioning. Sales materials for the product have, at various points, framed it in a way that consumers interpret as a potential replacement for prescription medication. The legal language is always careful. These supplements never quite say, "Stop taking your medication." But the testimonials, the language about ditching the pills, the framing of pharmaceutical drugs as the enemy, it all builds an impression in the buyer's mind that this capsule is going to do the job their doctor's prescription has been doing. I want to pause here because this part is genuinely important. If you are currently on blood pressure medication, stopping it without medical supervision can be dangerous. In some cases, very dangerous. The cardiovascular system adapts to medication over time, and abrupt discontinuation can trigger rebound effects. People have ended up in emergency rooms because they swapped a regulated medication for a supplement and assumed everything would be fine. No bottle you order from a Facebook ad is worth that risk. None of them. And any product whose marketing nudges you in that direction, even subtly, deserves a hard, skeptical look. Brand 5. Cardio Defense. Cardio Defense sits in a slightly different category. It's marketed less as a blood pressure pill and more as a complete cardiovascular support formula. The ingredients are a familiar mix: CoQ10, magnesium, hawthorn, vitamin K2, a few others. CoQ10 actually has reasonable research behind it for general heart health, particularly in people taking statin medications, which can deplete it. Magnesium is genuinely important. Vitamin K2 has interesting emerging research around arterial calcification. So what's the problem? The problem is the combination of claims and price point. Cardio Defense, like many products in this category, is sold at a premium, often 2 to 4 times the cost of buying the same individual ingredients separately at any drugstore. The sales pages frame the proprietary blend as something special, when in reality, you could walk into any pharmacy in America and pick up bottles of CoQ10, magnesium, and vitamin K2 for a fraction of the price. This is something most people don't realize about the supplement industry. The proprietary blend model is a marketing innovation, not a scientific one. By combining ingredients into a single capsule and giving the blend a branded name, companies can charge premium prices for what is essentially a few dollars worth of raw materials. The blend is then wrapped in a story, a doctor, a discovery, an ancient secret, and sold to consumers as something rare. The capsule is real. The science behind some of the ingredients is real. The premium positioning is, more often than not, theater. Brand 6. Alistrol. Alistrol is sold through long-form direct-to-consumer marketing, often via affiliate networks that promote it across health and wellness blogs. The formula is hawthorn, garlic, daikon seed extract, and holly leaf. By now you've probably noticed something. The same handful of ingredients keep appearing across product after product after product. Hawthorn, garlic, magnesium, hibiscus, CoQ10. There's a reason for that. These are the ingredients with at least some clinical literature suggesting modest blood pressure effects. Companies use them because they want to be able to point to a study somewhere and say, "See, our ingredients are scientifically supported." The studies usually involve different doses than what's in the supplement, different forms of the ingredient, and different populations than the people being marketed to. But the citation exists. And in this industry, the citation is often all that's needed. Alistrol's specific problem, based on consumer reports I reviewed, has been less about the formula itself and more about transparency. Customers have described being unclear about exactly how much of each active ingredient was inside the capsules they were taking. The label would list the ingredients, but the proprietary blend structure meant the precise dosages weren't always easy to verify. This is a recurring frustration across the entire supplement industry. The proprietary blend label allows a manufacturer to disclose the total weight of the blend without specifying how much of each individual ingredient is included. So a product can prominently feature hawthorn berry on its label and contain only a tiny fraction of the dose used in actual research. You, the customer, have no way to know, and that uncertainty is, in itself, a problem. Brand 7. BPS 5. Golden After 50. The last brand I want to talk about is BPS 5, sold by a company called Golden After 50. This one deserves attention because of who it specifically targets. Golden After 50, as the name suggests, markets primarily to older Americans, retirees, seniors on fixed incomes, people worried about their health and looking for solutions. The marketing materials use imagery of grandparents, of long walks on the beach, of life after the constraints of medication. The emotional pitch is finely tuned to a generation that grew up trusting authority figures and is now being shown new authority figures, doctors, scientists, researchers, who claim to have answers the medical mainstream is hiding. BPS-5's formula features grapeseed extract, L-theanine, hawthorn, garlic, and pycnogenol. Some of these have legitimate research. The price point, like Cardio Defense, runs significantly higher than buying the components individually. What concerned me most about Golden After 50 wasn't any single ingredient or claim. It was the sheer aggressiveness of the marketing pipeline. Buyers describe ending up on email lists that send daily promotions for other products in the same family, direct mail catalogs that show up at the house, phone solicitations following an initial purchase. The pattern of someone who buys one bottle becoming a long-term customer being marketed to relentlessly is well documented across complaint sites. And here's what makes this particular brand stand out. The audience being targeted, older Americans on fixed incomes, is precisely the population least equipped to absorb the financial loss of subscription traps, recurring charges they didn't authorize, or premium-priced supplements that don't deliver on their promises. That isn't a clinical concern. It's a consumer protection concern, and it's one that gets discussed far too little. Now let's circle back to where this video started. The valsartan recall, the losartan recall, the irbesartan recall, the carcinogen contamination scandal that frankly most Americans still don't fully know about. Between 2018 and 2022, the FDA pulled lot after lot of blood pressure medication off shelves due to contamination with NDMA and a related chemical called NDEA. The contamination was traced to specific manufacturing facilities overseas, particularly one in China and several in India, where solvents and processes used in the synthesis of these drugs had created the carcinogenic byproduct as a contaminant. This is real. This actually happened, and here's what I think the supplement industry has done with this story. They've taken a genuine documented failure of pharmaceutical quality control and woven it into a narrative that goes something like this. See? Big Pharma can't be trusted. The pills your doctor gave you are dangerous, but our natural alternative is safe. That narrative is everywhere in the marketing of the 7 products I just walked you through, but here's the part that doesn't fit the narrative. The NDMA contamination was discovered, reported, and acted upon precisely because the pharmaceutical industry is regulated. Inspectors found the problem. The FDA forced recalls, lawsuits proceeded, manufacturing standards were tightened. The system, however, imperfectly worked. The supplement industry doesn't have that system. There are no mandatory recalls for marketing deception. There's no FDA inspection of every batch. There's no requirement to publish your manufacturing data. When a supplement company sells you a product that contains less active ingredient than the label claims, and independent testing labs have found this routinely across the industry, there is, in most cases, no consequence at all. So if you're going to be skeptical of the pharmaceutical industry, and you have every right to be at least as skeptical of the industry that's trying to sell you the alternative. Skepticism doesn't pick sides. I promised you at the start of this video 3 things that actually have real science behind them, things you can do today, things that don't require a credit card or a subscription or a Facebook ad. Here they are. Number 1, the DASH diet. This isn't a trendy keto-style fad. DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, and it was developed and tested by the National Institutes of Health. Multiple randomized controlled trials, the gold standard of clinical research, have shown that following the DASH eating pattern can reduce systolic blood pressure by roughly 11 points in people with hypertension. That's comparable to the effect of a single blood pressure medication. Not a marketing claim, not a testimonial, an actual measured effect in actual human subjects published in actual peer-reviewed journals. The diet itself isn't exotic. More vegetables, more fruit, whole grains, lean protein, less sodium, less added sugar, less processed food. You don't need to buy anything. You don't need to download an app. You just need to eat differently. Number 2, hibiscus tea. Yes, the same hibiscus that shows up in several of the supplement formulas we just discussed. The difference is that the actual published research on hibiscus has been done with brewed tea, usually 2 to 3 cups per day, not with a capsule containing a fraction of the dose. Meta-analyses of human trials have found modest but consistent reductions in systolic blood pressure, typically in the range of 5 to 7 points. It's not a miracle. It won't replace medication for someone with significant hypertension, but it's a real effect supported by real research, and it costs roughly a few dollars per month at any grocery store. Number 3. Dietary nitrates. This is where beetroot juice has gotten a lot of attention. The mechanism is well understood. Dietary nitrates from certain vegetables, beets, leafy greens, certain root vegetables, are converted in the body into nitric oxide, which helps blood vessels relax. Multiple clinical trials have demonstrated modest reductions in blood pressure from consistent dietary nitrate intake. Beetroot juice has been studied most directly, but the same compounds appear in spinach, arugula, and other dark leafy greens you can buy at any supermarket. These three things, hibiscus dietary nitrates, share something important in common. They're not products, they're not branded. Nobody is running a Facebook ad campaign for spinach. There's no subscription model for the diet, which is exactly why they don't show up in your social media feed and exactly why they don't show up on those long-form sales pages. The things that actually work, more often than not, are the things nobody is making money selling you. Here's the takeaway after weeks of digging through this. The blood pressure supplement industry isn't for the most part selling poison. It's selling something more subtle, and in some ways more frustrating. It's selling false certainty. It's selling stories. It's selling the comforting idea that there's an easy, natural, doctor's secret way out of a complicated medical situation. That story is worth billions of dollars a year. And the people paying for it are overwhelmingly the people who can least afford to be wrong about their health. If you've taken any of the brands I mentioned in this video, you're not foolish. You were targeted by some of the most sophisticated direct response marketing on the internet. There's no shame in having clicked. The shame belongs to the companies that designed those funnels in the first place. What I'd ask you to do is this. The next time you see one of those ads, the white coat, the calm voice, the breakthrough discovery, ask yourself one question. If this worked the way they're claiming, why isn't my doctor prescribing it? Run that question through your head every single time. It's the most reliable filter you have. And if you're currently taking a blood pressure medication that's working for you, please don't change anything based on a video on the internet, including this one. Talk to your doctor. Ask about your specific situation. Ask about side effects. Ask about alternatives within evidence-based medicine. That conversation is worth more than any bottle you'll ever order online. Down in the comments, I want to hear from you. Have you seen ads for any of these brands? Did anyone in your family fall into the subscription trap? What other supplements should I investigate next? I read every comment, and your stories shape what gets covered on this channel. If this video helped you see something you hadn't seen before, the best thing you can do is share it with someone who needs to hear it. A parent, a friend, a neighbor. Subscribe if you haven't yet. There's a lot more of this industry left to expose. I'll see you in the next investigation.